Hello students, my name is James Grawl, and today we're going to be working in Autodesk 3ds Max, and we're going to be using the lofting commands to make a screwdriver, as you can see up here. Now, if you don't have 3ds Max and you're a student, you can do a Google search for free student downloads for Autodesk products, and 3ds Max, as well as a number of other programs, CAD programs, and so forth, you will be able to download for a free year license so you can learn how to run the software. That's a pretty nice deal from Autodesk. Let me go ahead and close this render window down, and I'll go over here to the far left and reset. And here I am with a layout with just one screen. Well, I would like to change that. I like to work with 3 orthographic views and a perspective view. So I'm going to go to Views, Viewport Configuration, and you have a number of tabs here, and under Layout, you have a different kinds of layout that you can work with. I'm comfortable with front, top, left, and a perspective view, so I'm going to go ahead and apply that. Say OK. Now once you're in here, you can give prominence to one window or the other depending on which one you're working in by just dragging in the middle here. And you have a perspective view and a front view, a top view, a left view. These are called orthographic views. Now to make this screwdriver, we're going to start by making a line, and then we're going to loft some shapes down that line. But before I even start that, I'd like to set my grid up and my units of measure so they kind of make sense for a screwdriver. So I'm going to go to Customize, Unit Setups, and right now it's set up with feet with fractional inches. And rather than having feet, because I'm using a screwdriver, I've had it's going to default to inches. In other words, when I type in 3, it's going to assume I mean inches rather than feet. You have other choices up here: fractional inches, decimal inches, fractional feet. These different choices, but this one will work fine for me, and I'm going to be in inches. I'll go ahead and say OK. Now the size of my grid, you can change that if you take your mouse up over these little buttons here and you right click. It brings up this dialog box where you have snaps, options, home grid, and user grids. Looking at the home grid right now, and the way it has it right now is that each of these square units right now represent 10 inches. I'd rather have that because I'm doing a square screwdriver. I just want it to be an inch. So I'm going to type in an inch, and because I defaulted to inches, it knows that's an inch, not a foot. And I'm comfortable with feet, so I want a major line every 12 inches. Okay, and then from the origin out, I would like, I think 24 will be fine. So let's zoom in and let's see what these have done to the grid. Now to rotate the grid, I'm pushing down on the middle mouse button and holding down Alt to kind of rotate or orbit the scene. So we're looking at the grid right now. Right now, each of these is an inch, and there should be 12 to a major group. And then I said 24 inches, so it's extending 12, 24 inches out in each quadrant. So that's how that works. If I type in 36 here, you can see how that would change it. It would just push it out another 12. That's probably more real estate than we need. I'll just type 24 here and go back. And so that's good. I'll go ahead and shut that down. I'm going to start working in the front view. I'll tell you what, let me make sure that these are just an inch. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to make a box here. And I'm going to come over to the parameters and I'm going to give it all 3 dimensions of 1 inch. 1 inch, and then I'll hit enter to accept that. Now the reason I did that is that you know, I'm good here in the perspective box, but you can see that up here how small that is. So I'm going to be zooming into here. Now this is a more comfortable way to be in the front, because each of these is an inch and my screwdriver is going to be around 10 or 12 inches. Same with over here. So I'm kind of getting my viewports kind of scaled up to where I'm going to be working. So it's worth taking the time. And see, you see how small that is? So it's just giving me a better start. So now it makes a little bit more sense for me. And I just use this box to get a proper zoom level. So I'm going to go ahead and delete that. Now the next thing I'd like to do is go ahead and make that line. These are all 3D objects. So I'm going to move over to the right here for shapes. And I'm on this tab. There's 5 tabs here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, excuse me, 6 tabs. And this one is for 3D shapes and this one's for 2D shapes. And I just want to have a line. And I'm going to go ahead and make this screwdriver about 12 inches or so. And if you hold down shift, it'll constrain it. So I'm going horizontally. So there's 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's going to work for me. Then I'm going to let up. And I'm going to let up on the, let me try that again. Click. And I'm going to come up after I've clicked, and I'm going to right click to exit the tool. Then I'm going to get the move tool over here and just move this over using the gizmo. I'm going to get it where I want it to be. Now I'm going to zoom in a little bit. I'm zooming in by rolling the inside of the mouse. If you hold down Alt and Control and push down on the middle mouse button and go up or down, you can also swing in and out more carefully. If you do it by just rolling the middle mouse wheel, you go kind of quick. If you hold down Alt and Control and push down on it and just go up and down, you have more control. And then to move right or left, you just, no keys, you just push down on the middle mouse wheel and you can pan left or right. Now this will be the line that I loft the objects down. Now I need some objects to start lofting down, so I'm going to start with a circle. And circle for this should be, I would say, something like that. I'm going to go ahead and scoot that down. Now that's going to be the serrated handle. I'm going to make another circle a little bit smaller than that one. Move that over. That's to help me build a handle. For the blade of the screwdriver, I'm going to make a smaller circle here. Something like that. And I'm going to go ahead and zoom into that because the business portion of the blade is going to be a rectangle. So I'm going to get the rectangle tool and go ahead and pull that out. So those are the shapes I'm going to work with to loft out this screwdriver. I'm going to go back and get my move tool and click on this first shape and zoom into it. And I'm going to go over here where these tabs are, and I want to get at some information about this. Right now it's telling me the radius of it, and that's fine. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn it into a editable spline. where I can start getting at the sub-objects, the segments, the vertices. So convert to editable spline. Now up here it has a little plus mark, and so now available to me is now vertices, segments, and splines. Okay, if I go to vertices, these are vertices, these points. The segments are what's in between the points, and the spline is the whole deal. So what I would like to do now is select all the segments and get some more vertices. And so I've selected all the segments, and I'm going to push down, and you get a little hand tool here when you push it, and I'm going to come over here to divide. This will divide the segments. I'm going to divide them by adding two vertices, and when I click on divide, it should add 2. So there we go. Good. Now what I like to do is bring in, either bring out or bring in, I'm not sure which, every other vertex. So I'm going to go to vertex mode, and I believe it's control to add to a selection, and I'm going to just skip every other vertex and have these all selected. Now what I would like to do is go to scale. This is move, rotate, and scale. We're up here at the bar up here on the top. And so I want to go to select and uniform scale. I want to scale this. But this is in the wrong position. I want it right in the dead center. So I'm going to have to play around with these. And it's either this one or this one. And let's see if it's this one. That looks centered. Let me try the other one. It's not that one. So it will be this one. And so I'm going to drag on this and kind of think about my screwdriver and how I want it to look. And I think that'll work for me. Now I want to reverse the selection and have just the top one selected, and I could do that by hand, but I think there is a command where you can select inverse, and it does have a keyboard control, Control-I, where you can select everything that you didn't have selected. And what I would like to do there is chamfer them. And I'm going to click on that chamfer button and click right here and drag. And it made 2 into 1, as you can see. And so I'm going to go right about there. And I'm going to right click to get out of the chamfer mode. And I'm going to say OK to that. That's going to be my particular handle. Now right now I'm in sub-object mode, so I can't really get over here and click on this round thing here. So I'm going to go back to the editable spline. Then I can click on this and move it over and see how that's going to work for me. Might want to make that a little smaller. I don't scale when it's I only scale things when they're in sub-object mode. So I'm going to go ahead and right click on this and convert to editable spline. And once I'm here, I can select all the vertices and scale that down a little bit. There we go. By the way, that's good advice too. I wouldn't do, if you're going to do lofting, it's best to scale from the sub-object mode, because there's some bugs when there's some inside coding when you have an object that hasn't been broken down to its editable form, and that programming causes some problems when you try to loft it. It tries to remember its original size. You don't want it to remember its original size. You want it to be the new size that you've given it. Holding down the middle button to come over here, and I think these things will work for me. All right, now let's click on the path. I have to get out of sub-object mode, and then I can click on the path. what I want to do is start my lofting now. So to loft, you can go to creation mode, and you click here, and what I want to do is go to compound objects, because we're going to be building a compound object using a line in these 2D shapes. So, and out of all these compound objects, what we're doing today is lofting. So I'm going to click on loft. Now when you click on loft, you get some information down here that has to do with lofting. And it says get path. Well, we already have the path selected, so it says get a shape. And then it has the path. So right now it's at 0, so it's going to place that shape right at the beginning. And by the way, even though this shape isn't perpendicular to it, the software understands and will turn this 90 degrees to make it perpendicular to it. And so I'm going to go ahead and click on shape, and actually I want to start out with this shape. Now you notice that it took this shape, put it right here where this little yellow X is, and it projected it all the way down. So I'm going to go down 1% and get the shape again, the same shape, to kind of seal it off. And so I put that shape right there at 1%. And then what I'm going to do is go to 2% and get this shape. And there we go. Let's take a look in the perspective view. Of what we're doing here. I'm holding down Alt and the middle mouse button to kind of rotate to show you this shape projected all the way down. And then over here, we have that little circle, and then I stopped it here with another circle, and then this was one more down, 1% down, and then that lofted all the way down that shape. So I'm going to zoom out a little bit here to get a sense of what I want to do next. Now I want to go down and stop this shape, I guess maybe 40%, and then I'm going to say get shape, and I'm going to get the same shape, so nothing will change. And then what I'm going to do is go to 41, get another shape. Okay, and you see that pull that in there. And let's see, I'm going to go to 42 and get the same shape. I'm going to go to 43 and get the smaller shape. Let me undo that. I'm going to go into my loft and click on the shape. I guess I'm okay. So let me try that again. Let me go to 43, get shape, and there it worked. Not sure what I did wrong. And then way down here, I'd like to stop it, maybe at about 94%, and I'll get the same shape. And there it is right there. And then at 95, I'll get, this is still down, so I should be able to click on the rectangular shape. And then at 100, I'll get it again. And there it is. Now, after I've done that, we can start doing some adjusting on it. So to do the adjustments, I'm going to come up here and try to figure out what I could do to improve it. Yeah, let me move this over. I think it's kind of an abrupt transition here. So I'm going to try to go to shape mode. And this is where I can grab the individual shapes. And I'm in local mode right now, so it'll react to the directions that are local to this object. And so I can actually grab this shape and pull it down. I'm going to, looks a little twisted. So I'm going to try to find the rectangular shape. Like that. Here's one. There's the other. So what I'm thinking I will do is get the rotation tool and grabbing this, just try to take some of the stress out of those polys. I'll go back to the move tool and select this, get my rotation tool, and unstress that a little bit. That looks better to me. And then what I would like to do is make the very tip a little bit smaller. So I'm going to try to swing this around. And I think to do that, and you can resize this shape. If I go to scale, you just got to be careful. You don't, and I'm pulling it in. Maybe I can go this way a little bit too. So I think that worked okay. All right, now what I'd like to do is go back to the loft, get out of that sub-object mode there, get rid of all this stuff, and get the move tool and move the screwdriver out. I would like to get rid of the line that I lofted. Don't need that anymore. And I'll swing this around. Next thing I would like to do is give it a little bit of color. I'm going to click on shade it and go to realistic. In case I put lighting out there. I'm holding down Alt and Control and holding down the middle mouse button and pulling up here. I'm going to get the select tool. And there's two different ways you can do this. This one means you have to totally surround something to get it selected. And this means you just have to touch it to get it selected. So if I wanted to just grab these, well, here's what I got to do. I forgot. right now this is still a lofted object, so I've got to convert this down to edible poly. So I'm going to right click on it and convert it down to an edible poly. Then I can start getting at the polygons to start putting color into them. So once again, say I want it color on just this part. Now I selected a little bit too much, so I'm going to come back this way and deselect by holding down Alt. And I'm going to right click on this window and swing this around so I can kind of see my selection. That's my selection here, so that'll work for me. So I'm going to hit M to bring up the material editor to put colors on this. And so I'm going to click on this one and just some color, maybe red. And I'll say OK. Now here it is. And I can drag it right out on here, or I can say show shaded material in viewport. And you can also assign material to selection. Okay. Now what I'm going to do is go back here. Is grab this portion and I don't want this in the middle, so I'm going to hold on Alt and just delete that, and I'll give that a different color. I'm going to come down here, maybe make that green, maybe a darker green, and there it is. And I can say show material in viewport and assign material to selection. So hopefully you did that. And the handle here, and get a different color. Okay to that. Show material in viewport, and you can grab it and dump it right on it if you want. Now if you want to see how it looks so far, let's see if we can turn off the edge faces. Trying to remember how to do that. Come here, turn on shade, turn off edge faces. They're still there. Maybe it's because I'm in poly mode. There we go. If you're in sub-object mode, you're not going to be able to get a look at the, anyways, that's so far how we're coming along here. Okay. Then I'll grab this part. Well, I got to go to polygon mode. Grab this part. Hold down Alt and deselect this part. And then maybe I'll add green to that. And then I'll grab this part. Hold down Alt and deselect this part. Add red to that. Zoom out. And then I'll grab this part and make a new color here. Maybe I'll use a template this time. Got wood and concrete and glass, chrome, brush metal, satin metal. We'll try brush metal. And I'll throw that on there. Zoom out a little bit. Let's put it on something and give it a light and then render it to see what we got. I'm going to go out of sub-object mode, and I'm going to go back to creation mode, go back out of compound objects to standard primitives, and I'll just make a little box here and zoom out. And I'll move this over. I don't want to look at the grid anymore, so I'm going to hit G, make that go away. This box, I'm going to convert it to an editable poly 2 and maybe give it some color. So I'm going to click here and go to, instead of clicking on color, I'm going to click right next to it and go get a picture of a piece of wood by going to bitmap. And then I have some pictures of wood on my E drive. Go up under patterns. I think under wood. I'll try that. See if it works. Show material in viewport. And let me select the polygon here. And then I'll just drag it out. See how that looks. Okay, now that can be adjusted. So I'm going to go to the pattern can be adjusted. So I'm going to go here and type in 12 and 12. See what that does. Maybe I'll go to 9 and 9. All right, and then I'll throw a light into the mix. Go back to editable poly. Go to create. This time I'm going to create a light. Photometric light, target light. And then I'll just drag it out, put the target there. Hit the move tool and move the light up to kind of get a sense of what the light is doing. I'll come here to lighting and shadows. Illuminate with default lights. I want to illuminate with the scene lights. Okay, and you can see what that's doing. It's awfully bright. So let's click on the light and go to its settings. You go to the settings by clicking here and the second button over. And instead of being CD, I'm going to go to lumens, and I'm going to bring that way down to maybe 300 and see what that does. Okay, that makes more sense. Okay, I'm going to get my move tool and hold down shift and make some duplicates. I get my rotate tool and just put them in different positions. Then I'm going to go to render setup. Before I render this, right now it's defaulting to 640 by 480. I'm going to take that up to 1600 by 1600. And I'll go ahead and render. It's asking me, do I want it to do map coordinates? I don't want to do that. I'll just continue. The rendering engine is called Mental Ray, and I'm pretty much a beginner at 3D, but I thought I would do this lesson on lofting, and I hope you all enjoyed it. And there's our finished project. Thank you very much, and God bless.